Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I hope you stay and join me for future videos, but if you don't, that's fine too. Sorry about my hair, it's really bothering me. Basically, I make videos on mental health, fun random things I do, and also just like documentaries and filmmaking. But anyways, so today I'm going to be talking about regular school versus like alternative school. So alternative school to me means like a school focusing on your mental health rather than on education. So for me, I went to an alternative school for grade 9 and 10, and I basically just did not do much academics. So I was behind when I went back to my typical schooling for about a month, and then I switched to online school. That's besides the point. And today we're just going to be talking about the differences that I experienced with a mental health type school versus a typical school setting. I was not put in much of a typical school setting for my high school career, high school years. I don't know. I wasn't put in much of a typical setting for my high school experience, but I did experience it a little bit, so I have a little bit of experience there. I mostly have done online, and mostly I've done online, or I was in a mental health supporting school. So first off, I'm going to be talking about the differences that I have seen in the school setting. First off is the time that these programs start. So my mental health program school started around 9 or 10 in the morning, and for my typical school, my school would start at 8 or 9 in the morning. It's not a huge difference, but it does count because lots of the kids that go to the mental health school take the bus, and we struggle with getting up and getting ready for the morning, so we have to make it accommodating to those people who have to get up and get ready and also take the bus. When you're put in a typical school setting, you are expected to be getting ready and still have time to catch the bus, but that is because most people in a typical school setting can do that without a problem. Lots of the people I met in this school program struggled with this kind of stuff, and personally I struggled with this kind of stuff too. So they need to make time for like students that need help with that kind of stuff, if that makes any sense at all. It's just kind of being accessible and able for students to be on time and still get ready. And in like a typical school, you will get in trouble for being late. There's no doubt about that. I never really got in trouble for being late in a typical school setting because I was always late, but that's okay. I know a lot of people that do get into like lots of trouble for being late, and I just was not one of them. So I'm lucky for that, but that's something. And then when you're in like an alternative mental health school, being late is not like the end of the world. Usually people are late. There's some people that are always early. Usually it's people coming out from other parts of the province. So I live in Canada. We had people coming from like 40 minutes away from my city. So those people are usually on time because they get like a taxi, their parents get a taxi, and they all taxi together to the program, which is really nice and like convenient for them. But I lived in the city, so I took the bus, and sometimes the bus would be late, and yeah, like being late is not the end of the world in this kind of program, to be honest. Like it's just not. Like no one cares. They care at a certain point, but when you first start going there, they expect you to be late. They expect the bare minimum from you, and once you prove to them that you are doing more than the bare minimum, they will give you more privileges and stuff like that. But when you're first there, it's the bare minimum, doesn't matter. And if you are like kind of late on a regular basis, it also kind of doesn't matter because they know that you're gonna be late. Maybe for me, I was usually late because my bus, I'd either get there like an hour early or I would be like 15 minutes late. So I just chose to be 15 minutes late, and it was not a problem with my schooling or whatever, because yeah, I'll get into why it's not a big deal in like a few minutes. So another difference in the alternative school program that I went to and the public school program that I went to for like a month, schooling is Monday through Friday in a public school, so every day of the week except Saturday and Sunday, so not too out of the ordinary. Most schools are like that, but in the alternative school that I went to, we only went to school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So we got Wednesday off, mostly because on Wednesdays people would have support meetings. So you would get one Wednesday of the month where you would come in the morning and you would discuss your progress, your everything like that. So they would discuss like progress and how you've been doing, and they would discuss with your support team, so like your counselors, your whatever it's called, your psychiatrist sometimes. Usually the psychiatrist does not come, and that's fine. I didn't like my psychiatrist at the time, so. And there would be like the teachers, your parents, you, all the kinds of people that are in the building, so like rec therapists and nurses and all that jazz. They all would come together and discuss how you've been doing on one Wednesday of the month. So different people will get different days, like different Wednesdays or like different times on Wednesdays. That's why we got Wednesdays off. And then they kind of did work for themselves in the afternoon because this is like a morning thing. And that's kind of what was going on Wednesdays and why we had one Wednesday off. Honestly, those meetings were terrible. You would just sit there and they would tell your parents everything you've been doing bad, and you're just like, oh, I hate this, but yeah, it works. And that's kind of, yeah, it's just every month you get a meeting with everyone and they have to discuss your progress. So the next thing I'm gonna discuss is like, what do you learn in the programs? So in a public school, everything is just academically focused. So there's no like real support system. Obviously there's school guidance counselors and all that, but there's no real like support system of different people in the school for you. So everything is pretty much academically focused. So there's no like training on how to make your brain better, if that makes sense. So yeah, everything is academically focused, and you get basic subjects, which is like English, math, science, phys ed, history, that kind of stuff. And in the alternative mental health school, we mostly focused on improving our mental health and coping skills. So we would have subjects like social skills, health, life skills, goal setting, that kind of stuff. So, and we would also have like rec therapy, where we would like go do things in the community, like go to a trampoline park or go swimming or go to, what was another place we did? We did kickboxing, we did a lot of things. We went to a corn maze. We did so much doing rec therapy. It's hard to figure out what ones we actually did. And we also did lots of volunteer work. So every week on Tuesdays, we would have to go volunteer for the afternoon. So my personal favorite volunteering was at the daycare at the high school that we were technically connected to. So it was like a program connected to a high school, right? And it was like an inner city school. Pretty much we would like go volunteer. Some people would do the garbages, like recycling. Some people would do daycare. Some people would go to the food bank. Some people would go to a thrift shop. We would go to the clothing depot, those kinds of things. We would go to like the garden and help garden for the food bank, or we'd go to like a shoe store and sort out the donation shoes that they're gonna give to students who don't have shoes. So that's kind of like the volunteer stuff we would kind of do. My favorite was the daycare. I loved it. And I loved that. And it was so much fun. Honestly, the food bank wasn't that bad. I really liked the food bank clothing depot. That one probably was up there too, because that one was kind of fun. But that's kind of, yeah, we would volunteer every Tuesday for the afternoon, and it was really fun. I really liked volunteering. And every morning, this is kind of why I was saying that it doesn't matter if you're like 15 minutes late, is because the first thing you do in the morning is some sort of physical activity. So either we would play games, we would go walk around the mall because we were downtown. So it was like everything's close. So we would like go to the mall and walk around, or we would go walk around the streets, like the city. We would just kind of walk around, or we would like obviously play games or do like some sort of physical exercise, or we would go to the weight room in the high school we were connected with and like run on the treadmill, do something like that. We had to do some sort of physical activity before we started our day, which honestly is probably a good thing because physical activity does help you get ready for the day. And when I did kickboxing, I would do that in the morning, so I would be ready for the day. But obviously with COVID, I'm not doing kickboxing because I don't know, it just doesn't seem like something I should be doing in COVID. And I hate working out by myself, so that's a problem. We would also like basically learn like coping skills for dealing with our mental health. So we would learn like breathing exercises, things like that, just random coping skills. We would learn about like sensory input. So we had like a sensory room and it had different kinds of sensory tools, and we pretty much just like learned how to deal with our emotions. And we would track our meds, sleep, mood / feelings, and what you ate for breakfast. So we would like track our meds, like what days we took our meds and what days we didn't take our meds, because we need to figure out how many days we're taking our meds and how many we're not. And we would track our sleep, so how many hours we slept that night and how it's affecting us. And we would track our mood and feelings every morning. So we would say how we're doing and what emotion we are feeling. Usually people would put like anxious or depressed or stressed or something like that. Sometimes you get to put happy, not very often, because you just didn't want to be there. But that's kind of what we would track. And you would say what you ate for breakfast, just so we know that we're eating healthy and we are doing our best we can. Okay, so next I'm doing kind of just like other kind of things that go on in the differences between an alternative mental health school and a public school. So public school is very self-directed, and in an alternative mental health school you are basically told exactly what to do and how to do it. And if you are struggling, they will come help you. You don't necessarily have to ask for help. They will notice you need help. But in public school, you have to be the one to ask for help and you have to be the one handing in your work. They will not like go after you for handing in your work. But in the mental health school, they are more on top of things and more helping you get your stuff done so you can improve to the point where you don't need any help. And most learning in a public school setting is done inside the classroom, which honestly I hate because I'm the kind of person that learns by doing things. So if I'm sitting at a desk trying to do things, I just don't do them very well, which is probably why I succeeded in online school, because personally I can do things how I want to do them and how I want to learn them. But in public school, you don't really get a choice in how you learn. It's just how the teacher wants you to learn. So with online school, I tend to kind of read through everything, write down notes, take a break, come back, maybe walk around thinking about what my answers are for assignments, come back and do it. But in an alternative school, most learning is done outside of the classroom, which isn't surprising. Most of our learning is done by volunteering, rec therapy, or like learning about coping skills, which is kind of done inside the classroom, but we put them to use and we don't just learn, we actually do the things that we are learning, so it gets stuck in your head. So the mental health school, it's mostly done outside of the classroom or in a not typical classroom setting. So that is why I would say it's not done in a typical classroom, is because it's just not, and public school is. And honestly, at public schools, they have the worst lunch ever. So in my mental health school, I never ate the lunch because I'm very picky, but they give you like 5-star restaurant meals, to be honest. Like, I don't think it's like this everywhere, but they like full on made us like tacos and pizzas, like handmade pizzas, burgers. You could get like pierogies, like great. I never really ate it because I don't eat lunch. I don't know, I just never eat lunch, so it's kind of weird for me, but I was kind of like, man, they make some good food here. In a typical public school, you don't get that, and I just thought that was pretty cool. So that's it for this video. I basically just kind of showed you the differences between a public school and a alternative mental health specifically school. I don't know if there's any other kinds of like alternative schools. I'm not 100% sure. But for me, my experience in an alternative school was a mental health school, and it was on like the worst street in my city. Like the most gang street, but that's fine. And I would like bus there by myself in the dark, you know. Basically, yeah. That is my conclusion of the differences between these two types of schools. Honestly, I didn't like being in the alternative school just because all my friends were not. And there were definitely some perks to being in the alternative school, like starting later, having a day out of the week where you don't go to school and all that kind of stuff. And like, you barely do academics in alternative school. So that was a plus, but the only thing I didn't like was because it made me so stressed due to the fact that I had to face my anxieties and like face everything I didn't want to face, which is probably why I personally didn't like it. Public school, I didn't like that either, so I'm not going on either side of the equation of which one I liked better. I honestly hated them both about the same. They were both terrible. I hated them. I like online school. That's where I vibe most. I do best online school, and I'm officially done high school now, so I am very proud of myself. I officially completed high school, half a year late, but I did it. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram or TikTok, my username is JewelPodBrittany. And if you want to like this video, comment on the video, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, feel free to do so. I'm not going to stop you, but if you don't want to, it's fine. Just don't do it if you really just don't do it if you really don't want to, but hit the bell if you do. Then you get notified if I post again. That's all I have to say. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye guys.